All right, Alec. I've got something seriously exciting for us today. You know how everyone loves talking about the legendary 300 Spartans? Well, I thought it'd be awesome if we went beyond the usual myth and actually broke down what really happened at Thermopylae. There's so much more to this story than just a handful of warriors holding off an empire.
Oh man, yes. This is easily one of the most incredible battles in ancient history. It's got strategy, heroism, betrayal, everything. And the best part? The whole 300 Spartans thing is just the tip of the iceberg. There were way more moving pieces in this battle than people realize, and I can't wait to dive into it.
Absolutely. I feel like there's so much myth surrounding this event that it's easy to lose track of what actually happened. Maybe we should start by setting the stage. When exactly did this all go down? I always get a bit lost with the timeline of ancient history.
Yeah, totally understandable. So we're talking about 480 BC, right in the middle of the Greco-Persian Wars. And what's really important to understand is that this wasn't some random battle. It was part of a much larger conflict between the Greek city-states and the Persian Empire, which was ruled at the time by Xerxes I. His whole goal was basically to bring all of Greece under Persian control. And the crazy thing? This wasn't even Persia's first attempt at conquering Greece.
Wait, so you're saying there was an earlier invasion? I always hear about Thermopylae as if it was the big moment, but there was actually a whole other attempt before this?
Yep, exactly. If we rewind about 10 years before Thermopylae, Xerxes' father, Darius I, tried to invade Greece. That led to the famous Battle of Marathon in 490 BC, where the Athenians pulled off this insane victory against the Persian forces. It was a total disaster for Persia, and Darius never got the chance to try again. So when Xerxes came to power, he basically saw it as his duty to finish what his father started. That's why he went all in, bringing this absolutely massive army to crush Greece once and for all.
Speaking of massive armies, how many soldiers are we actually talking about here? Because I feel like every source I've ever come across gives a completely different number.
Oh man, this is where it gets kind of ridiculous. Ancient historians, especially the Greek ones, tended to exaggerate like crazy. Some of them claimed Xerxes showed up with a literal million soldiers, which is just, yeah, no way. Modern historians have looked at logistics, supply lines, and what was realistically possible, and the best estimates suggest that the Persian army was probably somewhere between 120,000 and 300,000 troops. Still absolutely huge, but not quite the endless horde that old stories make it out to be.
And what about the Greek side? We always hear about the 300 Spartans, but I'm guessing there were actually more fighters involved?
Oh, definitely. The whole 300 Spartans against the world thing makes for a great legend. But in reality, the Greek forces were closer to 7,000 at the start of the battle. It was still a tiny army compared to what the Persians brought, but they weren't completely alone. That said, things changed pretty dramatically by the end of the battle because a lot of the Greek troops ended up retreating before the final stand.
All right, so let's get into the action. What exactly went down during those 3 intense days of fighting?
This is where things get really fascinating. The Greeks had this genius strategy. They chose to make their stand at Thermopylae, this super narrow coastal pass where the Persian numbers didn't count for much. It was basically the perfect bottleneck. For the first 2 days, the Greeks held their ground like absolute warriors. The Persians kept throwing wave after wave of soldiers at them, but the Greek phalanx formation was just too strong. Even the elite Persian unit, the Immortals, who were supposed to be unstoppable, couldn't break through. It was an absolute nightmare for Xerxes.
That must have been so frustrating for the Persians. I mean, they had this massive army, they were supposed to steamroll over the Greeks, and then suddenly they're stuck, losing men and not making any progress.
Oh, absolutely. He was watching his army struggle against a much smaller force, and it was embarrassing. He thought this would be an easy win, but the Greeks were just too well positioned. Plus, the Spartan warriors were some of the most disciplined fighters in history. Their whole way of life revolved around combat, and it showed. The Persians had the numbers, but the Greeks had strategy, superior training, and the advantage of the terrain.
But obviously, we know the Greeks didn't hold out forever. So what changed? How did the Persians finally break through?
This is where betrayal comes into the story. A Greek trader named Ephialtes went to Xerxes and gave him the exact information he needed. He told the Persians about a secret mountain path that bypassed the pass entirely. With this, the Persian forces could circle around and attack the Greeks from behind. Once Leonidas, the Spartan king leading the defense, realized they had been outflanked, he knew the battle was lost.
Wow, that's such a gut punch. So what did the Greeks do when they realized they were surrounded?
Most of the Greek forces decided to retreat to fight another day. But Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, along with about 700 Thespians and a few hundred Thebans, chose to stay behind. They knew they were going to die, but they wanted to buy as much time as possible for the rest of Greece to prepare for the coming Persian invasion. They fought to the last man, making the Persians pay for every inch of ground. It was one of the most heroic last stands in history.
That's absolutely incredible. No wonder this story became legendary. Even though they lost the battle, their sacrifice must have had a huge impact on the war.
Oh, for sure. Thermopylae wasn't just a military battle, it became a symbol of resistance. The Spartans and their allies proved that the Persians weren't invincible, and their sacrifice wasn't in vain. A few months later, the Greeks got their revenge at the Battle of Salamis, where their navy crushed the Persian fleet. After that, the Persians were on the defensive, and the next year, at the Battle of Plataea, the Greeks finally drove them out for good.
So in the end, the Persians lost the war, and Greece remained free. But it was because of battles like Thermopylae that they even had the chance to fight back.
Exactly. That's why Thermopylae is so important. Even though it was technically a defeat, it became one of the defining moments of Western history. It showed what a small but determined force could do against overwhelming odds. And honestly, that's why people are still talking about it 2,500 years later.
Man, this was awesome. I love how this battle is so much more than just 300 Spartans fighting to the death. There's betrayal, strategy, heroism. This could be a whole movie.
It kinda already is?
All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Okay, but you know what I mean. I think we did a pretty good job breaking down what really happened at Thermopylae.
Definitely. And if anyone listening has more battles or historical moments they'd love for us to cover, let us know. History is full of incredible stories, and we're just getting started.